you know, replacing my workspace, the use of home, some other names for, what home in a site could be called. This is great. I love everyone's willingness to test these out once we get the protocol going. Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, we can, if you have any other thoughts on it, send them our way. Great. But yeah, we'll work with that group. We can come up with the protocol and some different permutations and go from there.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Sorry, I realized about, 10 minutes in, I forgot to start the recording. So let me just recap very, very briefly what we've been talking about. We were talking about some of the discussion at Sakai Camp and the Morpheus Agreements document, and NYU had talked about using their consulting group that has worked with them on Gradebook for UX UI design to come up with some testing protocols and kind of looking at people's expectations around my workspace and perhaps changing the name of my workspace to something else, maybe changing the icon in the home of a course, either renaming it or using a different icon. Once those protocols are developed, he's going to share them back with this group in case we want to get some more broad testing at different institutions. And we have several folks in the chat here. Jolie at Duke, Matt at UVA, who had volunteered to maybe do some local testing at their institutions. So just kind of reading that off for the recording. I apologize for those of you who are hearing it all twice. So anyway, any other thoughts before we leave this area on the agenda? No? Okay. From those of you who were at Sakai Camp, anything you'd like to add about some of what we talked about there?
I think it was just, I think it was I think folks are really excited about Morpheus. There's a lot of, we agreed that sort of testing is, QA is a major priority right now. So we're trying to generate more energy around that. Yeah. Yeah, Dave, in the chat. So yeah, we agree that that's a big priority. So we're trying to get as many hands on that as possible. And I think around Morpheus, we know that there are some sort of common issues across pages, and so we're trying to come up with sort of the most efficient ways to test those. So Luisa was asking, how does UX testing work with QA testing efforts? What are your thoughts on that, Wilma?
Well, I think the QA it's obviously a big push for Sakai 11, but it's really kind of different from the UX discussion, because UX is more to do with design and making changes, and QA is more about whatever is already there works. So I definitely think they inform each other, but they're not, I guess they kind of work in parallel more so than one feeding into the other. That's just my impression.
Yeah, agreed.
But I do know that around Morpheus there is a lot of testing that needs to be done, and some of that is just as simple as going in tool by tool and looking at the tools on a small screen to see if they look wrong, like if there's boxes in weird places or if things don't scale appropriately. And that sort of thing is something that doesn't take a whole lot of technical expertise. It just takes somebody to go in, take a look at it, and make a screenshot of anything that they find unusual or that looks like it might be a bug. So while it's not UX per se, I think if there's folks on this call that are interested in contributing to the effort, that's definitely a place where we need a lot of, like Jeff mentioned, all hands on deck to make sure that we at least know where problems exist so that we can go in and target those areas.
Hi, this is Jolie. I'm wondering if we're doing UX in parallel, at some point though, we're not going to make any more changes to Sakai 11, right?
Right.
So actually, it could be that having the home icon right now is a great step in the right direction, and having the possibility of something, having the dashboard language kind of around there. I don't know if the dashboard tool is going to stay. I assume it is, but we know that there's some issues there. It could be that we're just going to have to, this could be something that ends up happening after the release of 11 and that we tweak later. That's kind of our goal, right? Or are we trying to?
I think any major changes will probably go into at the minimum a point release or later. Small things like the naming of something could potentially still make it into 11. And I think some of the discussion that we want to have around home and my workspace, I believe that's something we were hoping to get into 11, if there's going to be a change there. But any larger, UX issues that come up, those might have to wait. At least that was my impression. Jeff, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that, and with that, I need to drop off to get to this other meeting. So thanks all.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm reading some of the chat off because I want to make sure that we capture some of this for the recording. Let's see. So people are typing more, and my chat is moving. Okay. So in the next, this is from Louisa. So the next couple of months, should we focus on QA testing to get Sakai 11 ready? And how does UX testing work fit into this, the QA work? Yes, I do think QA is probably high priority right now. I think as you do QA, if you find issues that you think are usability issues that we should address, maybe make note of those so that we can circle back to them and start thinking about it for a point release or a future release of Sakai. So I don't think we're going to get everything that we want to get to in 11 just because the time frame is so tight. But as you go through and start testing things, just looking for bugs, I'm sure people will find things that they, think, oh, well, from a usability standpoint, this could be improved. So as you find those things, it's important to note those somewhere so that we can keep track of it all. Let's see. Terry is concerned about some of the gray on blue design in 11 since she knows some of her faculty and students need high contrast. The color scheme that with the blue and the gray is sort of the out of the box color scheme. So you'll be able to modify that at your institution. And oh yeah, I see Jennifer also replied that you can change the skin colors. So most institutions have their own skin that they brand with, so you'll be able to brand it whatever colors your institution prefers. Let's see. Adam said that he missed the chat about Home My Workspace. Is there a summary? Adam, we basically just pointed people to the Morpheus agreement document and the survey results. Those are linked here in the agenda and notes, and just briefly said that we had talked at Sakai Camp about getting a little bit of testing around the naming of things. Let's see here. the house icon and that sort of thing Terry mentioned. Okay. Louisa is concerned with the lessons UX work. So we can make some final changes before it goes into 11. Yes, and that's actually the next item on our agenda. So if we're done with discussion around Sakai Camp and Sakai 11/Morpheus, I think we can probably move on to lessons, unless anybody else has something they'd like to discuss before we go. No? Okay. So I'm curious, and I see Lisa doesn't have a microphone, so maybe she can just type in the chat. Did you get any other response from Chuck Hedrick regarding some of the feedback that we gave him on our lessons testing? I'm hoping Louisa's typing. That's what I'm waiting for. In the meantime, oh wait, okay, yeah, she's having problems with her microphone today. Did you hear what I said? That I was wondering if you had any feedback from Chuck.
I think I saw something from Chuck because when I asked about how you split a page into
right, yeah, and I linked that that Google group thread in our agenda because that was the latest that I've seen from him as well. And
I'm sure he said something about that he realized there was loads of cogs everywhere, but he thought that was the right thing to do or something. Unfortunately, my search on my Outlook doesn't work properly, so I can't. Maybe I'll have to manually see if I can find the email from him. Because I thought it was a bit of a brush off in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, well, the icon was in the result of another JIRA, but he didn't say which one, saying that the UI was inconsistent. I can't satisfy anyone or everyone.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was a little concerned there because it sounds to me like he's not really considering any changes at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, that's a little concerning because we did put some work into testing some things and had some suggestions. So I'm not quite sure the best approach as far as doing anything additional on that front. Yeah. I'm certainly open to suggestions if anybody has ideas. No ideas popping up in the chat so far. Okay, let's see. Lisa says he liked the proposals we made in the last round of UX efforts, but he didn't implement any of these, but added a new feature. Okay. I don't know, maybe if it was a time thing where he was busy working on the multi-column and didn't really have time to go back to any of the other stuff that we proposed, or we probably need to have a little more dialogue there to see what his plans are. So maybe, I know, Louisa, you've been in contact with him the most. Do you want to take that on as a to-do, or should we talk to Neil or somebody about getting another point person? I don't want to dump it on you. Okay, so Louisa's going to talk to Neil, and we'll see what we can do about getting some more dialogue with Chuck to see what his timeline is. Jennifer's asking, is this something we can push for an 11.1 release? Yes, I think that's definitely an option. So anything that doesn't make it into the first release can certainly come in a point release later. And I think there's a lot more openness into getting additional features into those point releases. So hopefully we can still influence what goes into 11, even if it's not in the first version that hits the streets. So I appreciate you, Lisa, being the messenger there. So that's definitely very helpful. And I think maybe once 11 is out and people have kind of a stable version that they can point people to, it's going to be easier to do some of that additional testing. So that if there is some more, feedback that we want to provide at that point, it'll be easier to get that back to Chuck. All right. Any other thoughts on the lessons UX? All right, so I'm going to write down a to-do item here. So I'll just have okay, so I just wanted to make some notes on that. All right, so the next item on here is the Open Imperial presentation, and basically I just wanted to report back that I did submit a proposal for that. I put it in by the early bird deadline just because I wanted to get it off my plate. I don't think anybody has heard about acceptances yet, so we're still waiting. But I'll be sure to report back to the group once we hear yay or nay, and then we can start planning a little bit more on what exactly is going to be in the presentation. Right now, I'm thinking that we'll kind of split it up a little bit. The sessions are 45 minutes long, so I'm thinking that maybe 20 minutes of that will be sort of a standard presentation style where we'll talk a little bit about the importance of UX and how people can, do some testing locally in their institutions. And then the other 20 minutes will be more of a hands-on activity where we actually get the participants involved in maybe either creating a test script for something or doing some sort of sorting activity. I know Francesca had replied to the email with a few ideas that she had done before. So we'll probably try to do something very active to get people kind of involved and participating. So, and then have 5 or so minutes at the end for any questions that might come up. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now as the overall structure, but we don't really have to get into the nitty gritty on the details until we hear for sure that it's been accepted. I know there were several folks who had volunteered to co-present, so it'll be a big group of us. It'll be like a panel discussion. If there's anybody who wants to present and didn't get a chance to let me know, just shoot me an email and I can certainly add your name. You're certainly welcome to present with the group because we want to make it very inclusive. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other topics anybody would like to bring up today? I know we're running a little short. It's only 11:30, but I certainly don't want to keep you if we don't have anything else to talk about. That was all I had on the agenda. So I'm opening up the floor if there's anything else folks would like to discuss. Okay, looks like nobody has any burning questions that they'd like to bring to the group. So, okay, so we'll just end a little bit early then. And like I said, we have a couple to-dos. Louise can check with Neil about getting in touch with Chuck and seeing what his timeline is for additional improvements. I'll get back to the group about the presentation once we hear one way or the other. And also, once NYU's had a chance to work with their consulting group, we'll communicate the progress on those testing protocols, because we may need some of you to do some local testing on whatever we come up with in that front. All right, great. Well, thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it. And I will talk with you again next month.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.